Here's the next project. I'm going to be putting up a handrail similar to this, in that I want it to have this return going to the wall and the short horizontal piece here, and then of course the rise, and then another short horizontal piece here, and then the return to the wall. And I'll probably get some brackets similar to those. This is just how we get from our garage into our house. And I thought it was a good place for a handrail. When my aging mother was coming in through this way, it helped her out quite a bit. That's when I put that one up. But I've got a much bigger one in mind. Let's do the title intro and we'll look at that. You're watching On the Mark with Mark. Here is, in fact, the much bigger one. We've got 2 steps there, and then we've got the entire way up to our 2nd floor, going up that way. I was able to buy this piece of handrail from our Habitat for Humanity's restore. I don't remember what I paid for it, but that stuff is expensive at the home center. And so I'm going to save quite a bit of money by reusing that piece there. And you might notice it's already got the returns on it. So that's going to be nice. I'm going to be able to cut those off and reuse those. But what I'm going to do, because I have to make things complicated, is it's going to have the return coming from the wall, then a short horizontal piece, then it's going to come up here, then it's going to go horizontal, and then I'm going to buy one of the curved pieces that goes right here, and then it'll go horizontal again, and then it's going to turn and it'll go up the stairs, and then there'll be another horizontal up here for a short distance, about the length of a step up here on the top, so that you got something to hang on to as you're getting started at the top of the steps. That is the idea. So if I don't count the 2 returns that are already done, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 joints there. So the tricky thing about this is this angle has got to be very precise, because when I go up the stairs, it's going to be parallel with the stairs, of course. But then down here, there's going to be a long enough horizontal piece that if it isn't exactly horizontal, it's going to show up. So I'm going to have to come up with a way of measuring that angle, probably plus or minus 1/8 of a degree, probably. Otherwise, that horizontal piece there isn't going to look level. And that's the first thing you see. Well, it's one of the first things you see when you come in our front door here. Also, if that's not horizontal, then what's going to happen to this piece across here? So I've got an idea on how I'm going to tackle that so I can cut a very precise angle. I've got this bit of baseboard here, and then there's a baseboard that goes all the way up the stairs. So this is a great surface for me to measure against. Now, this device here, this is called a W cutoff fixture. And what it is it's a miter gauge for my table saw. But if you look at it, each one of these marks is 1 degree. And look how big it is. It's almost 1/4 of an inch between degree. So I can get a very accurate measurement out of this. And I know that this back fence and the edge right here, which is where the saw blade cuts, is balls on accurate 90 degrees. And because of that, all of these marks on here are exactly right too. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this on here, and then I can loosen these up, and then if that angle is it looks like I can get up to 51 degrees, As long as that's, I don't know, less than 51 degrees. So I'm gonna come in like this, and then I've got this other board here that I've cut on my table saw, and it's parallel, and I can set that right on there, and it doesn't reach. Looks like I need a wider board. Okay, wider board, like that, and yes, okay. I've got a decent amount of contact right here, right there. Okay, so I'm gonna tighten this down. There we go. Okay, so let's look at our measurement here. Probably 49 degrees. It looks like it's just a little ways past there. So now we're gonna make a test cut, and we're gonna use that narrower piece that I had up here to begin with. All right, I'm gonna put some tape on here, right where we landed on our measurement, so I can see right where it is, okay? And pull it back, and you can see where it is. It's just a shade over 49 degrees. So we need half of that, 24 and a half. Okay, this is our first test fit. So we're setting this down here, and you can see it's nice and long here. And then I'm gonna set this up this direction. And again, it's nice and long. Holy smokes, we are off by a mile. Well, I'm glad I didn't cut the handrail like that. Did you guys see that? Did I do the math wrong on that? I sure must have. All right, let's take another stab at it. This is one of those cases where I should have drawn it out first. So here's what I have. This is the baseboard, and there's the stairs going up. I set my miter gauge on here. With the right angle parts on here. And then I brought that other board down, which established my 90 degrees, and I got this dimension. Now, what I believe is I wanted this dimension here. So if you add 49.2, I used 0.2 just because I could divide it in half easily, and this 40.8, then we get the full 180 degrees. So I'm taking this number and dividing that by 2, and then we'll take another test cut and we'll see how it fits this time. This is the beauty of taking a piece of scrap and making a test cut. Okay, test cut number 2. Yes, I tested this one off camera first to avoid further embarrassment. So here is what I was really looking for. It's something pretty close to this. There. So it's tight up here, but then you see how it opens up, comes down here. Now that is some fraction of a degree that we're off. So we know that we've got to take off more up here, and we'll sneak up on this cut until this is balls on accurate. A little closer, but still not exact. Okay, it's looking pretty good, but wait, not quite. It's very close. One more cut. Balls on. Okay, that is the angle. So how am I going to get that 20.8, because look at how close together 1 degree is here. Plus, I happen to know that right at that detent, which is supposed to be, well, it says 0, but it's a 90-degree cut, it's not 90 degrees. I think there's probably a way of adjusting this a little bit, fine-tuning it with some screws underneath, but I've just never bothered to do that because I've mostly used this for construction. And when you're cutting 2x4s off to do some framing, it's close enough. It's probably, maybe off by, I don't know, 1/4 of a degree, something like that. So I'm not gonna use that. I have this board that I just made, which has the angle that is correct. So I'm gonna set this so that the detents don't lock in. And then I'm just gonna turn this, I'll hold this guard out of the way, and I can put it right against my saw blade there, and then let's make sure we've got it. Right there. Okay, so now I've transferred that angle, which is very accurate, to my miter saw. Now I can set the handrail on here and make a nice cut. And if I have to turn it the other direction, I can flip this over and I can reset it again. So we got to get the handrails down to the shop where we can make our cuts. I didn't think that would work. I went through the window to get it in there. Well, it was quite the maneuvers getting this thing through the house. This thing is 15 feet long, so we really had to go around a long ways and then come in and back and forth, but we got it down here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse these returns here. So I need one return is at the top of the stairs, and the other return is at the bottom. Now, this will go up here, and then now it's gonna head up. Okay, it's flat on the table. The bottom of it is tight up against the fence. It is approximately the same length as this. This dimension is not critical. And they're also 16, 17 feet apart. So if they were not even within an inch of each other, it would never be noticeable. So I'm not gonna sweat it on this cut. So here we go. Got 134 down that direction. Here is a pretty neat system that I've used before with success. And I'll put up a good picture of this so you can see it. This is not a sponsor. They haven't paid me, but I really like their system. And it allows for some play. It doesn't have to be super accurate to join together two pieces of handrail like that. And all you do is you follow the instructions there. Now, I did it a little bit different because the way they show in the instructions, they're going straight on with two pieces. And what I'm doing is angled, of course. And so what it's gonna happen is this spring bolt's gonna be in here, and they say to center it, but then look how close it would be to the bottom. So I'm actually gonna put it in up a little bit higher. And then when I do the other side, when it's going down, then I'll do it a little bit low on there. So that's why I drilled 2 holes in this thing. They say to make a template like this. Okay, so here's our parts that we're putting together. This is the bottom of the handrail. I'm gonna do just these two, the little finish and the return on the top and the bottom tonight. And then those will be done and they can dry. overnight, and then tomorrow I'll be able to join the rest of them together. So it won't be too bad. Now I need to drill 1.25 inches deep in both sides, and I just used my Sharpie and put a mark on there. See how you can still see it as it's going in? And this doesn't, it's not super critical that you get it straight. I mean, you want to be pretty close, but this spring bolt can make up for quite a bit of misalignment. Quite a bit of misalignment, see that? So that's the beauty of the thing. Let's get it on there, here we go. Right there, okay. And then this one. There we go. All right. Those are gonna line up decent. And what I was shooting for was square with this surface here, not in line that way. Because the spring bolt is gonna go in, it's gonna end up in there like this. Okay, so then the next thing you do, well, this is how it works in the joint. It screws together like this, and then there's this rod goes in between. That keeps the spring from being able to jump the track, you know, it can't get out of its way and slip past because of the diameter of the hole that it's in and because of this rod here. Plus this rod provides a little strength to it too. The screw into the bottom of the hole, and that depth that I drilled these to, 1.25 inches, that is important. So you don't want to go over that amount or be under. Now you can actually do a dry fit, put that in there, and then you screw the two together. Now it's getting tighter because there's that spring in there, both those springs. And then you pull it around, and then you can see, look, I can slide it a little bit this way or that way or up or down. And it turns out you can get it just right in there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm take this apart, I'll put some glue on it, and then I'll screw it back together again. Kind of pulling them apart. I'm gonna wipe all my glue off. Okay, it's very close. We'll go one more time around. Yep, that's feeling pretty tight. There, let's see. I'm gonna go around again. Yeah, that's starting to bind up a little bit there. Okay, so now just make sure that it's lined up decent. Let me get a paper towel. That is gonna do. Okay, so I'm gonna let that set up overnight, and I got one of the joints done. That was overnight, and it is set up now. I think I'm gonna use a little filler on that. I didn't want to, I don't quite understand why that happened. Funny thing I never heard before with this system. That bolt is loose in there, which is fine, because once this is mounted, I mean, unless there's an earthquake, really not gonna hear that thing in there. This I glued up last night, and so tonight I did this joint and this joint. I'm gonna let that set up overnight. Before I go wrestling them around some more. Here's the other one I did last night. This is the top of the long flight of stairs here. So now all we have is 2 more joints to do. But I want to get these mounted first so that I can really get an accurate measurement on the length of that. Otherwise, the whole thing won't fit together right. And I've got the railing going up the stairs, mounted just with 1 screw each. And I have the railing that comes around the side on here. So now I just need to fill this gap here. So instead of taking any measurements, I'm just gonna set it in here and mark it, and then I'll cut it to the right length. But before I do that, I wanted to double check my angle here. So let's make sure that I ended up getting that mounted right. So we'll pull this down, trying not to cover it up. Like that. And I'd already leveled this 2x4 down here. So that's it. So the angle still matches good. So I'm gonna make that final cut. And then I think I'm going to assemble all of this down in the shop. It's going to be kind of tricky to snake through the house, but I'm pretty sure I can do that. Here it is. Nice tight fit here. All right, let's go assemble it. It's just sitting there right now, but you can see it's on the bracket there and there. We got a couple of more brackets to put on going up here, but otherwise it's fitting. I'm going to screw this thing down and then we'll look it over. Well, there it is. We really had to snake it through the house to get it here all in one piece like this, but we were able to do it. And this last glue joint here only had a couple of hours on it, so wouldn't have taken too much of a bind to get that to maybe crack apart. And if you notice here, it is beautifully level, so that worked out well. This joint here is tight, so that's good, and it's going up to the top. I'll show you that in a minute. And I've got, right now I just have 1 screw in each one of the brackets on here, but this is one solid handrail. So I still need to, I'll give the used stuff a light sanding, and then I've got some of the leftover pieces, and I'll try some different stains and try to match this honey oak, which I don't think is going to be too hard. And then I'll stain, it's just these 3 pieces right here that are the new stuff. So we'll try to match those up decent, and then I'll put a nice coat of polyurethane, probably water-based polyurethane on this thing, a little bit of sanding, and there's a couple more brackets I want to put on going up the stairs, but it's getting late and I need to get this done to get it on YouTube. So let's take one good close look at it, and I'll thank you for watching to the end. And if you haven't subscribed already, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. YouTube is pulling some funny things on me right now and took back half of my monetization dollars, which they didn't promise them to begin with. It was estimated, and then the estimated got cut by 50%. So I don't fully understand why, but subscribers help. So if you wouldn't mind, please consider subscribing and hit that like button. If you have any comments or suggestions on how I did this, leave a comment there. I would really be curious to hear how other people do this. This is the way I went about doing it, and I didn't get too bad of a result. I know it looks kind of funny across in front of that window there, but I think handrail takes precedence. And also this, I don't know if this is supposed to be a chair rail or what, but anyway, it kind of made for a sort of a crisscross look there. So this may be coming off. I don't know. My wife and I have never been too thrilled with it from the beginning. So for now, it's going to stay put. But most importantly, this is a good safety feature. We have a handrail back, well, for the first time in this house. And we've been here for, well, this month, I believe it'll be 7 years. So I finally got around to it. Good. This is a personal note I wanted to add at the end of this video. If you're still watching, you're one of my my treasured subscribers. I wanted to say the reason this handrail got moved up to the top of the list, because it has been on my list for a long time, is because I recently had what appeared to be a very bad cold that turned into a double ear infection overnight with a lot of pain and even some bleeding. I ended up in the emergency room, and long story short, I've been to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, and what they're telling me is that this was a virus that has attacked my the nerve that goes from the cochlea to my brain. So while my cochlea is still working, the nerves, think of it as like the spinal cord, is not transmitting the sound to my brain. I'm hearing at about 20% of what I heard 2 weeks ago. They're telling me it's permanent. I have permanent hearing loss now, so we've got to wait 3 months for this to run its full course. We don't know how much more damage will be done or how much of my hearing I could maybe get back. So that's where I'm living now. with this condition has come vertigo. And I never really experienced vertigo before, but you can just start spinning just like that. And if you don't have something to hang on to, you are going to be on the floor. And the first couple of times it happened to me, I was lucky enough that I had a countertop to grab hold of until it subsided enough that I could stand up again. But if that were to happen at the top of this stairs, there was nothing to hang on to. And I know for a fact that I wouldn't be able to even lay down on the stairs in the right direction. I might lean forward. There's just no controlling what can happen. So now I at least have this handrail, and of course I'll be hanging on to it every time I go down. So if the vertigo should happen to hit me at that time, I will already have a hold of this handrail. So that's why this job got moved up to the top of the list. Thanks for listening, and have a good day.